Hi Desmos team, my name is Patty Maloro. I'm excited to talk to you today about Central Park, one of my favorite Desmos classroom activities. I teach high school in a small charter school in Derry, New Hampshire. We are really fortunate to have a charter school in our town. Our population right now is about 65 students, and I have the luxury of having very small class sizes of less than 10 students at any one time. Desmos provides me with a perfect platform for engaging these students in social learning. That is our mission here at Next. We take them on many different social learning experiences. We want them to have fun and be engaged in what they're doing. Up here you can see we were playing craps during a probability unit. And like I said, I really do have the luxury of really small class sizes and the ability to meet individual needs in a real intimate setting in a close-knit community. Desmos is a technology platform that I use very often. A lot of our students, though, come to us with some pretty negative feelings and negative experiences surrounding mathematics. Some of them have never been successful at math, and they come to high school with some pretty weak foundational skills. Not all of them, but many of them. My colleague and I work really hard to try and encourage that growth mindset that while, of course, correct answers in mathematics are important, it's not the only thing. We want you to engage with us, to share your mathematical thinking, to try and be flexible, to make some mistakes and learn from those mistakes, to learn from each other. And so we try and help them to understand that while the product is important, the process to us is almost more important. I meet a lot of people who ask me what I do for a living, and I'm often met with a very common response. I hated math. I was never good at it. Once algebra came into it, once there were letters in math, forget it, I was out of there. So when it came to time to design a module for my foundations class on algebraic reasoning, I knew I wanted to sort of get to the meat of the matter. I wanted to get to the heart of that problem that so many adults share with me, that all of a sudden letters came into math and that was it for them. Mathematics became a mystery and a mysterious language that they couldn't access. And we have some students that come to us with some pretty weak foundational skills, and that's why we developed the foundations class. Central Park is an activity that might typically be used at the middle school level, but I was using it with freshmen. And while they had seen variables before, I wanted to make sure that I tried to fill in the gap with some rigorous activities that would deepen their conceptual knowledge. And I had a lot of choices. Obviously, I could have started with vocabulary and examples that we did together and note-taking. That there's nothing wrong with that. We could have gone through the process together, done multiple examples, and then typically what would I have done? I would have assigned homework such as this. Again, not such a bad thing. Students should be able to answer questions like this, although I don't know why anyone would ever plant 97 trees or bake 8 dozen cookies. We certainly want them to be able to answer word problems and be able to express them with algebraic expressions. But I think often, and I do this too, we sometimes start too high, or we start at the top. We don't develop the question enough. And I think Desmos Central Park does exactly that. It does exactly what I want to do for them, is develop the question and to create for them an experience where at the end of it they have a really good conceptual foundation of whatever topic it is I'm trying to teach. And Central Park not only does that, it does it in a fun and kind of silly way. So let's take a look at the things I really love about it. So A piece of this teacher page and teacher description that really resonated with me was this line right here. Use your knowledge of computation to inform your algebraic understanding. And seeing that representing ideas with algebra can save a lot of time. How many times I've given students problems that I know I would have used an algebraic equation for, but they don't, right? They guess and check. They take a very long conceptual computational process, and at the end of it are exhausted. And often I'll say to them, wow, that was a lot of work, right? Man, you've been at that for, a good 5 minutes. Wouldn't it be cool if there was a shorter way to do that? Let me show you. It's something called algebra. And so those are great organic moments when you're teaching. And I think Central Park kind of did it for me. It really develops the question well, and it builds on their prior knowledge, their just simple computation. And that alone builds their confidence. The student experience preview here is really helpful as a teacher. But I think the best way to truly learn about how to do the activity and how it's going to work for your students is to sign in as a student yourself. You'll see in the dashboard up here that I had students, I've used authentic student responses, but we changed names and we put in fake names. Some of the activities on Desmos allow you to anonymize. Central Park, for some reason, doesn't. Maybe it's because it's an older activity, it just doesn't have that feature. But even if it didn't have that feature, and some do, some don't, it's very easy for the students when they sign into student.desmos.com and they put in this class code, they can then choose a name. And when I signed in to this particular activity to join the class, I signed in as Schroeder. It's good to do the activity with the kids because you can type in erroneous responses, and then sometimes that initiates some good discussion. So this first task, what I love about it, and I had already moved the device, I'm going to move them back, but what I love about this is that this is low floor, right? Anybody can enter this activity, whatever their background knowledge is. I have classes, obviously, very luxuriously small, and I have a pretty good handle on their different abilities, but it's still 6 very different abilities. Some teachers out here, what are we dealing with, right? 26 kids from completely different levels, and we need to differentiate, and that is not easy. So anytime we can find an activity that's low floor and allows kids multiple entry points, we're happy, right? And Central Park is perfect for that. So anybody can access this. And this was so fun to watch them because at 15 years old, of course, they like to pretend that they don't care about things, or that they're too cool for things to be fun, but they do. They love it, and they'd never admit it, but they do. So, and then you get to try it. And so this immediate feedback, right? Now they can, man, I didn't park my cars. I got to try it again. And they adjust, and they're getting, did I do it? I didn't get it again. But what's great about the teacher dashboard is if I go back here and let's just take a look at Snoopy, for example, I can see with these green check marks that he did eventually figure out how to divide the parking lot. Central Park gives 3 different opportunities for that with 3 different types of dividers. This one was a little bit more challenging, I think, because of this gray space, but still they had a good time trying to manipulate it. So as a teacher, I think it's really important that you try this out beforehand or try it out with them. And that allows you to anticipate needs. Certainly at this level of game playing, you're not really anticipating any huge problems here. And this one I thought was great because the dividers were more wide, and that, I think, created a spatial awareness challenge for some kids. And those are all good things to be developing throughout this activity too. And then they get to try it and then get mad when their boat doesn't get in there. Okay, so after they've played around a little bit and had some fun, Central Park then starts to raise the bar a little bit. Suppose you want to figure out the exact space. What are you going to do? And I think it's important to go back and take a note and take a look at some of the responses from the kids. This is the place where you can really start to assess their understanding, their ability to communicate their mathematical thinking. It's also a time for you to go and challenge them a bit. Look at Charlie Brown. He gave me one word. Certainly I had some words with Charlie Brown about how do you present a viable argument? How do you present a viable description of your thinking? One word's probably not going to do it, Charlie. So the next time you get a question like this, you want to work on your response. And we worked out some responses on paper. I didn't make him go back and change it. I could have, because on your screen, on your student screen, you can go back. I can edit my response, my previous response, which is also great. So you can have them go back and fix what they had to say. But you'll notice later on that when I get to Charlie Brown, he did develop his response. And he did that in the span of 3 minutes, because by the time he got to this screen, okay, we start to get a better response here. And this is all within the same class period. That ability to provide immediate feedback is part of what I love about these Desmos activities. Not only can I provide immediate feedback, it's formative assessment. I can look at, in particular, Lucy. Now, this is a child, I know this particular student is homeschooled his whole life. He's just come to a high school. It's his first experience outside of the home. And math is a huge challenge for him. And it's great for me to see that, okay, despite his difficulties with language, there is some good mathematical thinking here. And he's getting the concept behind this activity. One of the things about this particular part, now we're moving into numerical computation. I loved how Snoopy in particular back here, when he came to this first question, he gave me his thinking. See how other students gave me 8. Great. I mean, it's awesome that they got the right answer, right? I mean, I'm not going to say that they're wrong. But this is the point where I, as a teacher, in front of the whole class, this is where, so instead of me listing the names of the kids that got the correct answer, that's wonderful. I'm also going to talk about, hey, look at what Snoopy did. Wow, he was real clear as to how this 8 came here. I totally get it. Peppermint Patty, even clearer. Oh, the 35. 35 was the entire lot. Hey, Peppermint Patty, why did you put a 3 here? And these are classroom discussions that you're having. They get a chance to do this 3 times with 3 different parking lots. Again, immediate feedback. I'm going to reset this, and I'm going to type an incorrect response. And they get that immediate feedback that they were incorrect. And you're there to support them. Now, at this point, they've built on the computation knowledge. Now we have to raise the bar one step at a time. Let's not discount the fact, too, that all of the Desmos activities is this one screen at a time. You know, how intimidating is it? How intimidating is this, right? Then I only put 3 problems here. You and I know. We all know, right? You're typically giving a student a worksheet of 20 of these. Just the words alone on the page are intimidating. So All of the Desmos activities with this one screen at a time, I love. I think it really takes away a lot of that anxiety. Gives them a chance to really focus in on one thing at a time. That learning progression, developing it, scaffolding it. Now we're going to take the computation that we did back here, and we're going to put it into words. We're going to describe how to calculate the right width of the parking space for any situation. A lot of the students did a really good job on that. I'll show you that student that had given me the one word response before. Who was that, Charlie Brown? No. It was Linus. So Linus, way back here, he's the one I had gone to talk to and say, ooh, you know, your responses, let's beef these up a little bit. Of the boards, well, first of all, of the boards, so let's talk about good spelling, because, yeah, spelling counts in math. And look at just moments later, and minutes later, look at how this student developed their response. Again, immediate feedback right in the classroom while they're learning formatively. And then they apply their reasoning here. I'm going to reset this because one of the things that I love too about this particular activity. So they get to this point in Central Park, and now we're going to generalize. We're going to take your computational knowledge and we're going to turn it into an algebraic expression. So what did you do? What did you do, Sally, to 35 and 1? Well, I took 35 and I subtracted 3. Well, why'd you subtract 3? Well, because 3 times 1, I had to account for the space of the dividers. Oh, excellent explanation. Well, what'd you do over here? Did you subtract 3 over here? No, I had to subtract 6. Well, why did you have to subtract 6? Well, because 3 times 2 is 6. Oh, what did you have to subtract down here? Well, down here I had to subtract 18. Why 18? Well, because 3 times 6 is 18. Oh, so what do you have to do to the width of the boards, the width of the dividers, every single time? You have to multiply it by 3. Yeah, you do, because there's 3 of them. So really what you were doing, ladies and gentlemen, was you were taking the width of the lot and you were subtracting 3 times the width of each divider. And here's a perfect opportunity now to discuss the vocabulary of coefficient and to discuss the conventions of algebra. I could have done it back here. I could have defined it. We could have taken notes on it. Maybe they're going to remember it more after doing this fun parking activity. Notice too, while the students are typing in these variables, I loved this, tying computational knowledge to algebraic understanding. As they typed in the general formula, each separate situation was being shown numerically. It was great. And they saw that connection. And I'm going to divide by 4, and then I get to try it and make sure, hey, is my algebraic equation correct? Is my algebraic expression correct? Yeah, it is. Awesome. Yay, everything parked. I didn't have to worry about it. I'm going to try it with a bunch of other situations. And this is where you get, hey, Mrs. Malaro, there's dragons down here. Or what do you think these things are? They're horses. Yeah, okay. Again, 15-year-olds, they think that they don't care about those things, but they do. Okay. We're going to develop the question on you even more. We're scaffolding up, right? Central Park does it seamlessly. What's different going on here? Oh, you mean not all parking lots are the same? No, they aren't all the same. What if there were only 3 spots you had to account for? What if there were 33 spots you had to account for? What if there were 300 spots you had to account for? What are we going to do? What's going to be different about that? And I'm going to reset this so we can take a look at how wonderfully this develops the question too. Now we're going to talk about, well, what if there's any number of dividers? We know what we did with W and P last time. What did we multiply P by? Well, we multiplied it by 3. Well, why did we multiply it by 3? Because that's how many dividers there were. So then in this situation, what would we multiply p by? Oh, we'd multiply it by 4. Oh, you're right, because there's 4 dividers. Well, what would we multiply it by over here? Yeah, we'd multiply it by 3 because there's 3 dividers. Notice there's something we could say for any number of dividers. We could just use a letter to represent any number of dividers. Any number of dividers of a certain width. Again, while I'm typing in this, it is being connected to numerical computation in the screens below. This part was really challenging for them, what to divide by. And so we developed the idea of what to divide by. Some kids knew it right away, and that's the other thing. Students who grasp the concept quickly could move ahead, could move faster. They're done the activity. They're talking to the person next to them, and they're not just giving the answer. I mean, that's a cultural thing that you have to establish in your own classroom. But they were socializing and talking together about what are we dividing by, and I overheard them asking each other questions. So, for those that really struggled with it, I went back on their screens. What'd you divide by here? 4. Why'd you divide by 4? Because there are 4 spots. All right. What if you were going to calculate it for 3 spots? What would you divide by? 3. Well, how many dividers are there? 2. So the thing you divide by is always, it's always 1 more than the number of dividers you have. And then they get to try it. They get immediate feedback. They know whether their algebraic expression is correct or not. They're not waiting a week for a response to a written assignment that you gave them. You're not correcting on a Saturday night on your living room couch and filled with dread because you're now realizing that poor Schroeder didn't get this 3 days ago, and now what are you going to do when you go back to school? How are you going to find time to help Schroeder understand this? It's all here at the same time, and those moments, those are invaluable to know that you can give immediate feedback. When you go back, I want to point out something in this teacher dashboard. Snoopy, for example, when I go back here, I want to refresh this because there was an alert to Snoopy I want to show you. This is also a great thing. Okay, Snoopy didn't finish this. Okay, you want to know why he didn't finish it? Because he got to this particular, he stalled right here. And I know, so Snoopy's going to require some one-on-one with me. I'm really going to have to help him with this, this generalizing of the numerical computation. Once we've gotten to this point in the activity, now this feature, which is great, we want students to start to evaluate the thinking of others. If they evaluate the thinking of others, perhaps they'll become more reflective on their own responses and their own thinking. And so if we turn the parking lot into 8 spaces, each space is going to be exactly half as big. Do you agree? And most of the students in my class were able to understand that that isn't the case. But I want to point out to you a student where this is clear. Here we've gotten to screen 12 of the activity, and I know from this screen, just from this screen alone, this student, poor Lucy, didn't quite get the divider situation. She didn't quite get that the dividers take up space. That's a pretty big concept that Lucy missed. And it's all right here for me to respond to immediately. So it's really, really useful. And then at the end, there's just a fun little element of what should we title this lesson. Some of my students had some pretty good ideas. Why are people parking dragons? Well, that's my snarky student who likes to be sarcastic. Sally said space dividers. And I liked Charlie Brown's too, Mini Cooper Squeeze, which I thought was pretty cute. Any chance that we have to seamlessly differentiate instruction as teachers, it's invaluable. And Central Park, as well as marble slides, and many of the activities that I have used on Desmos have really been priceless for me. Tomorrow, when I return to school, I'm going to be using Blue Point rule. We're starting a unit on transformations and congruence, and I'm really looking forward to using Blue Point rule and seeing how that turns out. But as you can see from my history, I use Desmos a lot. It provides me with fun, engaging, low floor but high ceiling tasks through which I can provide immediate feedback, developing the question, and really helping kids to understand things on a conceptual level, and not just what's the answer. How do I finish this task? Did I get 100? So thanks for joining me today. Look forward to hearing from you in regards to the teaching fellowship, and I look forward to using Desmos pretty much every week when I teach.